Welcome to another episode of This Too Shall Suck podcast, where we talk about the real of grief, the whole grief, and nothing but the grief. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You know, I like to give y'all a little variation. I think I have been saying to y'all in a while. Welcome back, my loves. I am your host, Loryn Denise, and I'm so happy to have you here. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me in season 2 of the podcast. I'm super thankful you're here. And if you are listening again, welcome back. And thank you so much for continuing to join me on this journey. On today's episode, we're going to be diving into I don't even know how to, it's almost like business and grief or success and grief. So I think a lot of times when there's a loss of whether it's person, place, thing, you know, whether it's a loss of something, you know, it's hard for us to look at anything else and, you know, start a business or be successful because you're really struggling through whatever that it is. And so you may get to a point where you're like, you know what, I want to do something to honor that person, or I want to do something to, you know, really feel like that this pain that I'm having, I want to really channel it into a purpose. Right. And so I brought someone on who I've really a lot of respect for. Not only is she my boo, but I just have a lot of respect for her. We connected about 2 years ago, and then we kind of are connected on a deeper level because she not only lost her dad, she most recently lost her grandmother. And so when I met her at the time, I had lost my mom. My dad was still here. And, you know, we talked about the loss of a parent, and I just saw a lot of the things that she was doing. And I reached out to her and was like, hey, I want to own a hotel one day. And, you know, she just really sat down with me and we just talked and we just became really good friends. And so I'm just proud of the amazing things that she's done. You'll hear some of them that she's done. And it's so funny because she will never brag on herself, which I love about her. Because I'm like, girl, you bought a hotel? And she's like, yeah, I did, but let's talk about something else, you know, which I love about her. But, you know, she really had some tough losses and she was able to really work through that and create an amazing life for herself and her son. And so I'm excited to be talking to her and bringing her on. But I wanted to really just shed light to it because you hear about so many people who have lost someone and they create these amazing businesses and these amazing opportunities out of their loss, out of their grief, right? And so you may be like, well, Loryn, I don't necessarily have like a huge grief, or I don't necessarily want to start a business. I just want to do something that makes, you know, them proud, or that makes me feel good, or take this pain away, right? And so that's why I wanted to say, like, turning that pain into purpose. Because for me, obviously, turning my pain into purpose was creating this podcast, because I knew that I didn't want to be in pain anymore. I knew that I had to talk about it. And I was going to therapy at the time, but I'm like, this is just not enough. Like, I knew it was not enough for me. I knew it wasn't enough for the person that I was and the greatness that I had inside of myself. And I knew that God wanted me to have more. And I think that's why he gave me this vision, because I knew that the pain would subside. And again, and when I say subside, I mean, like, it doesn't fully go away, right? The pain of my parents is still there. But talking about grief, helping people through their grief, healing is allowing me to heal and to do all those different things. And again, to me, people are like, yeah, your podcast is successful. And I look at myself and I'm like, I mean, it's all right. But, you know, like, then I hear other people, they're like, well, you've done this and do that. And then I look at other stuff and I'm like, well, no, I ain't up here with these folks. Like, I ain't, you know, I'm just over here, just minding my business in my room, recording a podcast, talking about grief. Right. But to other people that may be successful, and I inspire people and all of these things. And I'm like, what, you know, but I have to understand that looking at it, I had a deep traumatic thing happen to me, not once, but twice in a short amount of time. And when that happened, instead of me just laying down and just being like, all right, like, let me just, kind of whatever, I decided it was better for me to help others in the midst of that and to do that. And so that's, I think, the success that people look at is to say, like, you really could have just laid down and took that, or you could have laid down and not acknowledged it, but instead you acknowledge it all the time in order for others to heal. And so I just want people to know that if you're in a place where you're grieving, whatever the particular loss is, and you want to create something, or you want to do something, or you want to feel something successful, or be, whether it's and again, it's not about creating a business, it's not creating a podcast, it's not about any of that. You can be in your job and, you could be an entry level and then want to be VP, right? But this thing is holding on to you so strong, this pain, this cloud. And you're like, how do I do that? Like, how in the world am I supposed to get up, go to work every day with these people, get on my nerves, and do something amazing because I just want to do it to feel good, or I just want it because I know that this pain that I'm having has to mean something deeper than what it is, right? And so that's why I wanted to bring her on to talk about it, and just to say that it can happen, guys. Like, if you're in that space, you're in that kind of, I want to do something, I know I can do something bigger. Like, I want to help you break through that. And you can definitely break through that. It's not easy. It's not easy to break through it. I think, you got to have a vision of what it is that it looks like, and just really focus on that vision of whatever it is, and don't matter whatever else is happening around it. So if you want to be a stylist and, say you lost your grandmother, and and you were always telling your grandmother about how you want to be a stylist, and that's your catalyst to you opening your salon, that is a blessing. That is great. Does it suck that you had to lose your grandmother for that to happen? Absolutely. But don't take away that from yourself. Give yourself grace to say, you know what? Like, yes, I would have loved my grandmother was here because I had been telling her I wanted to be a stylist, and now I'm doing it. But what I do know is that she's proud of me for doing that. Or if you were in a relationship and, you got divorced, or boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, and y'all broke up, and you were like, you know what? I really want to do this. I don't know, whatever the business is. And now you're doing it. It was because that loss fueled you to do it, because it's like, you know what? Maybe that relationship wasn't for me. Maybe that relationship was the thing that might have been holding me back in order for me to grow and be successful. And again, that's an extreme. I'm not saying everybody gets in bad relationships and bad breakups, but what I'm saying is you use that loss to catalyst and fuel and the pain to really push you to your passion. And so I say all that to say, guys, that if you're in that kind of state, just know that there's a way for you to push through it. There's a way for you to get your passion out of it. And the first thing is to really just have a vision of whatever that is. And you may have had the vision the whole time. You may have had the vision, like, I didn't have a podcast vision, so I can't lie to you guys that I had a podcast vision, obviously, when I was, when my parents were alive. I could have had the vision when my mom passed away, but I didn't have it. God gave me the vision after my dad passed away, so that's when it became, and I just happened to act on it immediately. But, I could have had this vision a long time ago and never acted on it. Right. But, you could have had the vision for a long time, and just for whatever reason, it just wasn't the time. I think timing is important in everything in life. And so it wasn't the time. So if you did have the vision and now you're acting on it because of a loss, don't beat yourself up. Give yourself grace. That's amazing. Give yourself a pat on the back that you're actually doing it, that you're actually acting on that vision that you've had for a very, very long time. The second thing is to really execute, like, take massive action, as I always say. I am a person that you can ask any of my friends, if I have an idea, I don't like to say things out loud, because the moment that I say them out loud, I know it has to get done. So if I want something, I say I'm going to do it. But if I'm kind of like teetering, I say, oh, well, maybe, because I know the moment that I say it, it has to get done. And that's just how I've been my whole entire life. But also my friends know that if I say something, I'm going to act on it immediately. Unless I give them to say, like, in the next 3 to 4 years, I'm going to do this. Right. But if I'm telling you, like, hey, I'm going to start a podcast, I'm going to act on it immediately. I told my friends I was starting a podcast, and 45 days later, I started a podcast, right? But that's just the type of person I am. And so I think that's the type of person that helps when especially, again, when you're in those moments of grief and when you're already over the place, you don't know what to do, just taking that action and executing is going to help you get to that vision a lot sooner than if you were to just kind of sit and wait and kind of be like, well, I want to do these things for them, but I don't really know how. Figure out the how later. Listen, I'm a person who I will figure out the how as I go. I'm still learning how to podcast. I listen to podcasts. I called my producer, Mike, and was like, yo, I want to start a podcast. And he gave me some tools and things to do. And I did that. And I'm still learning day by day how to do things, how to do them better, how to market better, all of these different things. So I always say, listen, you'll figure out the how, but you have to do it to figure out the how. Okay. So that's the second thing. And then the number 3 is to really just enjoy and give yourself kudos, I'll say, for doing it. And just do it. Like, that's it, guys. Like, have yourself the vision, execute the vision, and give yourself that kudos when you do it. Celebrate those victories, no matter how big or small. Like, because those things are going to help in those moments when you're like, dang, I wish my dad and all the time, I'm like, dang, I wish my parents could see the daughter that they have raised today. But I also give myself those victories to say, wow, okay, we made it to 2,000 downloads. What's up? I give myself those moments because I know those are the things that they would give me praise on. And so give yourself those moments so you can get that praise that you would get if someone was gone, or that you would get if you were in that relationship, or that if you didn't lose that job. Like, give yourself those moments, and that is what's going to help you feel that success. And again, whatever level that looks like for you, that you're going to need, especially when you're trying to create something great, or when you get to a certain pinnacle or level of greatness that you need in your life when you are grieving. Because at the end of the day, grief is not going anywhere. She is right there. He is right there with you, but when you take those moments and give yourself that grace, give yourself that kudos, execute, have the vision to be able to do something, my God, it's such an amazing feeling. I can just tell you. So I am excited to share Davonne's story with you and just hear the wonderful things that she is doing, and, just really how she's taken her grief and turned it around and made it something wonderful. So we're going to talk about her story and all of that after this break.
This week's episode is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. Number 1, it is free. That means no monthly subscriptions, no hidden fees. It is free 99. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. So you don't have to buy all this equipment that I decided to buy. You can do it right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. So it's so easy for me to upload an episode, and it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. And you can actually make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started, and let's get into the show.
All right, you guys, we are back. And as I always say, I'm super excited to have this next person on. This is my girl. We met, I think, about 2 years ago, and we have just been keeping in contact ever since. She is such an inspiration. And let me just get into the bio. I'm going to tell y'all, and y'all can hear what my girl is doing. So Davonne Reaves is the founder and chief hospitality strategist behind the Vonne Group. She's an award-winning hotel consultant, a hotel asset manager with over 14 years of experience in the lodging industry, and a published author. Her signature system, the Pathway to Hotel Ownership Plan, combines strategic partnerships with hotel experts to streamline a successful hotel acquisition process. Through her signature system, she's educated over 3,000 people and has successfully helped turn individuals into hotel owners. Ms. Reaves serves as an advisory board member of the Cecil B. Day School of Hospitality, is an associate member of the International Society of Hospitality Consultants, a member of Urban Land Institute, and co-founder of Next Gen in Lodging. And she didn't have this on here, but, I'm going to toot her up because it's my girl. She is also now a co-buyer, I'm saying it wrong, she's going to correct me, don't worry about it, of Home 2 Suites in El Reno, OKC. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my boo, Miss Davonne Reaves. Woo, woo, woo,
woo. You're so funny. Thank you, Loryn. I didn't even know. I mean, I'm listening to my bio. I'm like, wow, I actually did a lot of stuff. Okay.
Yes, sis. And let's be clear. I need everyone to be clear. I cut down the bio, okay? Because we could have kept going, okay? Because my girl is out here. Let's be clear. Davonne, thank you so much for being here. So, as you know, I kind of shared with you, I just wanted to talk about, the success after grief. Because, you and I have connected, obviously about losing parents and understanding that. And you recently losing your grandma. So we'll dive into that. But I think it's important for people to know that there is, you can still be successful even in the midst of grief, after grief, through it, whatever it is. And you are someone who is definitely successful, someone who inspires me. I tell you that all the time. And I'm just grateful to have you in my life. So thank you again for being here, girl. So if you
I'm grateful for you too.
Girl, stop. We don't have a love fest. I'm like, girl, all right now.
You're so funny.
But the first thing I want to ask you, for people who don't really know Davonne, if you could just talk a little bit about your journey with grief. Like I said, I know obviously about your dad and your grandma, but if you could just kind of share that with the listeners so they can understand how you kind of started and we'll build from there.
So that's a great question. And I really appreciate your platform. And you say, I inspired you, but really you inspired me. I really like what you did with this podcast as far as how you were trying, because I know you reached out to me a couple of times on how to handle different things, and the fact that, you just thought out to create a podcast, because grief is hard.
It is.
Grief is, it's a lot. And especially it's a lot if it's unexpected. It's a lot when you have to go through it and you see a loved one, pass away or transition. And for you to create this podcast is so beautiful because I listen to it.
Thanks.
And it helps me, I didn't even realize, I thought that I've always thought I've been a good person who handled grief. And just listening to your podcast, I know we're going to go into a little bit later about the scholarship, but listen to your podcast. I don't know if I told you this, but you inspired me to create the scholarship. And you did. So I think it's just beautiful what you're doing because your podcast and people who are going through grief, they reach out to me. I tell them to listen to your podcast because you have these conversations that because grief is a lot of mixed emotions that you don't really know how to explain. Right?
Yeah.
You can't explain it. You don't know how to address it. You don't know how to communicate it. So sometimes you feel like you're alone. So I've been experiencing grief for a while. When I mean grief, experiencing it. So my grandmother's from the old school. What I mean by that, it was I'll call and be like, oh, hey, grandma, at the end of the conversation. Hey, grandma, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Her response was like, oh, I'm still alive. So it was like, oh, okay. So I feel like my grandmother's been preparing me for her death my entire life. And so, when she passed, of course it was sad, but it was like, Davonne, this is what I've been like. To give you an example, when I was in school, when I was in college, my grandma called and was like, Davonne, you got it. My grandma lived 2 hours south of me. She called and she's like, Davonne, you have to hurry up and come down and take me to the store. The store closed at this time. So, stop what I'm doing, we're on schedule to take it to the store. So we get there, I get down there and we're driving to the store. I was like, this doesn't look like the store you mentioned. She said, oh, hush, just make a left. Just make a left. Do what you're told. So, make a left and everything. And I said, no, this is a funeral home. This is not a store. And she said, I know, because we're going to pick up my casket. I said, wait, what? Wait, hold on. What? Wait, what? Girl, we literally planned out her funeral. That was in 2007, I think. 2008. She died in 2020. Wow. So, right, exactly. You know what I mean? So we're, literally, but I'm actually grateful that we did that because we created her program. She told me exactly what she wanted. She was like, okay, Davonne, this is what I want to wear. This is who I wanted to keep at my youth. So the planning process of her funeral, it wasn't as difficult because we knew exactly what she wanted, right? Mm-hmm. My aunt, I did experience that. The first time I experienced that was traumatic for me. I was 15 years old. My Aunt Sandra, my mom's sister, she passed away. And that was unexpected. Like, that was devastating to the family. Like, she was just a force to be reckoned with in the family. She was just well respected and well loved, not only within our family, but throughout the world. She was a missionary, and she just died unexpectedly. And I suffered a lot of grief because I felt like I didn't appreciate her while she was there. But I was young. I was like 15, 16. So, at the time, whatever. You don't think, especially if you never experienced death, you just think people will always be there, right? And so that was my first introduction to, Davonne, you need to appreciate people while they're here, because you never know when they're going to leave. So that was at probably about 15, 16. And then the next traumatic experience was my godmother. And I forgot how old I was, but I remember the year. So whoever can do math, and y'all know how old I was. But it was in 2013, and she passed away. That was unexpected. And it was traumatic, but it wasn't as traumatic as my aunt. And the reason why it wasn't as traumatic, not only was I older, but her and I had a very deep connection, a very deep bond. So I did everything humanly possible I could have done for her while she was alive. So I was more at peace. It was a lot of pressure put on me because I was over her, some of her, after things and some of her belongings and everything. I was put in charge of it. So that was a little difficult. A little challenging, some family dynamics, as you can imagine, when we deal with that. So that was my first, my first introduction to that. And then the next time I experienced that was really traumatic for me was my father. And,
no, it's okay.
That was no cry, but it's all right. I know. I'm sure you get that all the time. People like, girl, you don't know if you're crying.
Listen, I be on here crying, so girl, it's fine.
And so my dad, it was kind of unexpected, but not unexpected. Mm-hmm. So my dad, he went to the hospital, and my dad used to always go to the hospital because he didn't really take the best care of his health because he was a smoker and he wasn't supposed to smoke. So for all the smokers who are listening, smoking is really bad.
Cut it out.
Exactly. And so my dad did not cut it out. He just kept smoking. And so when my dad would get sick, it would be really bad. So when he caught the flu, it's like really bad because his lungs were compromised.
Right. Because
he smoked, and he was also a firefighter for I think about 25 years. And so he got really, and we didn't even know he was sick. I didn't even know he had the flu because when my dad was sick in the hospital, he would just not tell anybody. I'm like, Daddy, where were you? I was in the hospital. Wait, what? How do you not let people you wouldn't tell his mom, his aunt, nobody knew my dad was in the hospital. I'm like, Daddy, what are you doing? Oh yeah, I was in the hospital. Huh? And so I got on him about that. I'm like, Daddy, you cannot just go to the hospital and not tell anybody. At least tell somebody. He was like, I don't want y'all to worry. Daddy, come on now. And so, and I'm glad I had that conversation with him because guess what? He went into the hospital and he called me like, I'm calling you, so you don't fuss at me. And so he called the kids, called his, mom and my aunt, his sister, and it was just like, hey, I'm in the hospital. We were like, okay. And he was in the hospital before, so we'll go visit him and everything. So we all thought he was coming out. It was just literally we thought he was coming out. And they called and they were just like, we had to resuscitate your dad. Mm-mm. And I'll never forget, it was January 20th. Oh, wow, that's the day my son was born. January 20th, 2018. I never forget. That was the last time I spoke to my dad. And because I talked to him early that day, and I was going to an event later on that night. This is all the celebrities. It was this nonprofit event. And I got all dialed up, and I was all excited. And I didn't know that I was going to meet Dr. J. Dr. J was there. Shaquille O'Neal was there. And so my dad, being from Philly, he's a huge Dr. J fan, huge. So I was like, Dr. J, I got to take this picture with you. My dad is a big fan. I sent my dad these pictures, because my dad likes pictures and autographs and stuff. For famous people, that's his thing. And so I said, Daddy, stop sending these pictures. My dad always responded. Like, always. Like, even when he was a firefighter back in the days with a pager, he'll call back, okay, Davonne, you okay? I just had to put out a fire. Like, he just always responded. So he always did. Like, he just always responded. And so I was like, wait, Daddy didn't respond. Something is wrong. I'm calling the hospital. We trying to figure out what's going on. And it's like, we had to resuscitate your dad and put him in the induced coma. I said, oh my gosh. That moment, I don't know what it was. But I said, he's not coming back. I didn't want to tell anybody, because then I didn't want to be the Debbie Downer. People always telling me I'm the too realistic, negative kind of person. So I was like, well, let me not say that. But that's just how I felt. I was like, I don't think he's coming back. So that was hard because I'm really close. I'm really close to my dad. And so, just like you are, you close to your dad. And so, I, just try to go through the motions and I never forget my mentor. He said, Davonne, he said, have you accepted? Because his organ started to fail. Like it was just an organ, it just falling. It kept failing. And I was like, it kept deteriorating. And so my mentor was like, Davonne, have you, he's a pastor, he old school too, same generation as my grandma. So they seen plenty of this. Like they just seen it like it was nothing, right? And he was just like, Davonne, have you accepted that your dad is dying? Like he's gonna die. And I'm thinking, man, why did you tell me that? I said it to his wife. Can you believe your husband said that to me? Mm-hmm. Why would he say that? He didn't be positive. He's gonna be a pastor. Like, he's gonna be a reverend. Like, why would he say that? And that's the best advice he could have ever given me. And I'm sharing this to the folks who are listening who's trying to process. Now, this helped me. This may not help you, but this helped me, right? And I'm sure you bring people on the podcast to kind of help people process their grief.
Right.
What helped me process and to really get a grip on my dad's death and for me to be strong for others, I accepted that he was not coming back. Mm. That was very hard. That was not easy, but I had to accept it because I had family members who were like, "Oh yeah, he's coming back. This is what we're gonna do when he get out of the hospital." He's not coming back, y'all. Right. Like the only way he was coming back was being on the vegetable, was just being a vegetable. And then at that point, that's being selfish. Yeah. Because if he's sitting here being a vegetable, that's not living. My dad wasn't like that. My dad wasn't a selfish person, so he wouldn't want us giving up our lives to take care of him. So if he's like, hey, you got to pull the plug on me so y'all can live your life, I'd rather y'all do it. That's just how my dad was. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't know. So finally, the doctor was candid with us, and they were basically like, these are the options. Basically, like, look, he is not looking good in so many words. And so we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what his wishes are because we couldn't get in his house. My dad was right for a knock. You can't get in. You can't get in the house. And so he gave me a code to get in his house, but I got it, but it didn't work because he's constantly changing. Well, I guess he forgot to tell me. And so I couldn't get in the house. And I was like, dang it. Well, I think I finally got in, and that alarm went off and I freaked out, so I turned back around. So anyway, so we tried it again with all of the siblings. So I have an older sister, a younger sister, and a younger brother. So we was like, okay. And this was actually better that we did it. So look at that. So it was better that we did it, that I didn't get in the first time. Because when we got in, all of us, we were together. We got in the house. And because we had the key. We didn't have the code, but we had the key to get in. And all his paperwork was on the bed. Mm. Like his will, his power of attorney, his his health care, everything was just laid out. I was like, I didn't even know he had this done. Because I kept asking him, I was like, Daddy, you gonna get your will done? Blah, blah, blah. He was like, I'll get to it. He had it done. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we came in the house and it was laid out like that, I was like, oh my God. But we knew in his wishes, he didn't want to be resuscitated. So technically my dad, he he died on March 13th, but technically he really died on the 20th because that's when they had to resuscitate him. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, that was, you know, and my brother was getting married, so we all decided, you know, as a family, you know, as siblings, my dad didn't remarry after my mom. We all decided as siblings to bury him after my brother's wedding. Yeah. Right. And so we did that. We, you know, enjoyed. We at least had some type of happy moment with my brother getting married. It was sad because my dad was there. He was able to see. While he was laying in the bed, he was laying in bed for about 2-3 months. So he was able to see. He could hear. He couldn't speak. I did get a chance to fly up there, and he did say I love you. Yeah. I was able to, and I told him I loved him. Yeah. And so after my brother passed away, after my brother got married, we went up there and we were with him when they unplugged. And so we had a party. My dad likes music. He's a P-Funk guy. So he likes 70s music, you know, Stevie Wonder, P-Funk, Temptations, like all of those are his songs, right? Commodore. So we just playing music. Yeah. You know, the hospital like, man, y'all know how to party, no songs. You know, we dancing. You know, having a good old time. Because that's what my dad wanted. Yeah. You know, my dad really, because I was, you know, years ago, I was like, well, Daddy, what do you want your funeral arrangements to be? He didn't care. He was like, you can put me in a cardboard box and throw me in the school river. Oh, Daddy, won't that hurt? He's like, I'll be dead. You know, so my dad really didn't care about stuff like that. He really didn't. The point I'm trying to make to those with this, you know, someone told me that I shouldn't have been in the room when my dad died. And I'm glad I went with my better judgment. Because if I would have did the opposite, I would have been a very upset person. Because I was very close to my dad. And so the fact that I was able to, you know, hold his hand. Yeah. And just, you know, to let him know that, you know, I'm there for him until his last final days is something that I will always cherish. Yeah. And so I'm saying this to say, you know, people will tell you what they think is best and what works for them. But you have to go work for you. So somebody says, oh, you shouldn't be in Rome, you know, on their last days because you make it. No, you do what you want to do. If you want to be in the room, because that's it. It's no going back. You can't change it. They can't, you know, you can't stop that. And so I'm so glad that I was there. Yeah. To hold his hand. And I'm so glad that he with his children around him. And his mother, when I tell you, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Yeah. He was surrounded by love and family. And I'm just so happy. And if I wouldn't have been there to experience that, I probably wouldn't be able, I probably would be a different person. You know, because, you know, I was so close with him, and that was my best friend. And so it's sad because I'm having these accomplishments and he's not here. You know, I can't call him and say, Daddy, what happened? You know what I mean? I can't share this with him. And the stuff that I would give just for him to be here, to experience and to see it, and so he can brag. He's a bragger. I would just tell him stuff so he could brag because that's what he loved to do with his friends. With his retirement friends. He's like, well, Davonne, we don't talk about anything. You know, I think y'all don't talk about putting out fires. He's like, for what? But I had to go through that to help me get through my grandmother. Yeah. And my grandmother, she passed away in January. And I was so close. I can't describe to you how close I was to my grandmother. Yeah. Like, that was my everything. Yeah. Like, I would say I was her personal assistant because I just did everything for her. That's my baby. I love her so much. Yeah. And she just meant, I didn't realize how much of an impact she had on my life until after she transitioned. and all the stories and the things that she had to go through. And and I feel so bad because the stuff that I'm doing now is the stuff that I should have been doing before she transitioned. Mm. And so that eats me up because I go back, what was I doing that, I wasn't doing then? I wasn't focused. I wasn't determined. And sometimes you just don't appreciate, you don't appreciate life. Mm-hmm. And so, but I will say, when my grandmother passed away, I was at peace. I was at peace when my dad passed away too, because I did everything in my power for him. You know what I mean? I was right by him when he was alive. So I don't have any regret. I asked him everything I wanted to ask him. And I think it's true. I think people know when they're about to die. Because it was like 3 months, I'm going back to my dad. It was like 3 months before my dad went into the hospital. And he was just telling me all these stories. Like, it was just weird. Like, he would call and talk to me about all these stories about his life. He's like, I need to write a book. And he's like, I just need to write all these. He would just tell, I didn't ask him. He would just call and be like, but I'm so glad he did because now he's gone. And I was able to ask him, whatever I wanted, and I'm so glad I did, because I have those memories. I hate that he's not here to experience, Jameer, his first grandson. But, I'm just thankful. So I tell people, and my grandmother, she did teach me to do the right thing. And, there's a saying where you give people their flowers while they're alive because they can't see them when they're dead. And so I made it a point to constantly give, I give people flowers. But I'm just saying this to say that those are the memories that I have, with my grandmother and, by her, her saving, meaning, she was a big person on saving because she never knew what was going to happen to her. And, because she came from a different generation. She came from a generation where, Black people couldn't own houses, where Black people couldn't own land. And so that's where those are the memories that she had. So basically what she was, and my grandmother had an 8th grade education. So my grandmother couldn't read or write, to be quite honest. Like, if she got mail, she would just leave it to me. And so I could read it to her. She didn't understand it. She couldn't write. Now, one thing I will say, she knew how to count her money. So if you was missing $1, like if she sent you to the store, she'd be like, wait a minute. Of course, I would give her a receipt because I knew how she was. But other people, she's like, oh, I thought I gave you $20. She's like, oh, so really? A pack of gum cost you a whole $15? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, oh, okay. So that's so she was good with like numbers, like, oh, that's not. So she knew how much money she had in the bank. Like she was, she was good in that. But she couldn't read or write. She couldn't write checks. Like she didn't know how to spell dollars. Like she had to write a check. She would call me and say, Davonne, how do you spell? She couldn't do all that. So that's why I was really protective of her because I didn't want anybody to take advantage of her. Mm-hmm. So I was very protective of her. I didn't care who you were. You was not, I was her bodyguard. I was her buffer. If somebody, knocking on her door to sell her something, that she'll say, oh, you need to call my granddaughter. She wouldn't even entertain it, and that's just how close we were. And, I checked on her as much as I could, even when I was in Boston. I checked on her as much as I could. It was hard to videotape her because she didn't like taking pictures. But she was very quiet. She was very gentle. She did get a chance to see Jameer. I'm very excited. She had a family full of girls, and Jameer was her first boy, so she did hold on to see. So I would ask her, I was like, Grandma, could it be 100? And she was like, no. So those are the conversations that we had. So I guess she was realistic. Like, Davonne, people had to go. My dad was realistic, but Davonne, people gonna die. I'm like, Daddy, you gotta live forever. And he's like, okay, I hate to bust your bubble, but that's not gonna happen. So fortunately, I was around people like that who, but my dad was a fireman for over 20 years. So he faced death every day. Every time he went into a fire to put it out, which he never talked about, like ever growing up. Like, I didn't even know. I'm like, Daddy, you put out fires? I didn't find out till his retirement party. Because he just never talked about it. I'm like, Daddy, you put out a fire? He's like, Davonne, I'm a firefighter. Like, what did you think I was doing for 20 years? But the point, going back, I never go off in tangents, but I'm saying these stories to hopefully help people. These are the things, and so I'm paraphrasing the quote, but they're basically saying if you keep talking about a loved one who's transitioned or who's gone home, it's like they're still alive, right? So some people, they deal with death. They don't want to talk about the loved one. They don't want to deal with it. They just want to leave it alone. But me, I have these stories and I share them. It makes me feel good. I'm like, oh, that's what my dad was saying. That's what he meant. Oh, that's what my grandma meant. Or you know what? Let me not make that decision because I already know what my dad was going to say. I know what my grandma was going to say. Some people they're doing, like my grandmother, we celebrated the anniversary of her death. And we went to her gravesite, and my sister, she was on flower duty this time. So she put the arrangement together of roses, fresh roses, real roses. My grandma did not play with any fake flowers. And she put together roses for her, and we took pictures, and went to her gravesite, and it was beautiful. That was a beautiful celebration of her life. And I created a scholarship. I think I was listening when I found out about your podcast. And I was like, wow, man, that's really dope. Like, Loryn is amazing. Like, that is just dope. I would have never thought of that you channeling your grief, trying to figure out how to process it, and now you're using your platform to help others deal with a difficult conversation. Because unless you experience a death of a loved one, you can't experience it. If you haven't experienced a death of a parent, you can't, you know what I mean? So when you were reaching out to me, like, okay, Davonne, what should I do? I don't know how to, and I had to remember that the way I grieve is differently. And I've learned that people grieve differently. There are different stages of grief. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn about that, so I did my own research. Okay. So, especially when my dad was in hospice and really when my grandma was in hospice, that it helped me. I saw my grandmother declining, her health decline. And I was telling people like, hey, y'all may want to see my grandma. Cause I don't know when it was, my mom was in Philly. I was like, Mommy, and so Elena, like my sister, I'm like, y'all may want to see grandma, cause I don't, you know what I mean? And my grandma, she was just tired. She was 92 years old. She lived a really good life. She didn't make it in 93. That's all right. She saw her grandson.
Right.
She died in her home. My grandmother was in a assisted living home, and I made the executive decision. Nobody agreed with it. I wouldn't say nobody agreed. A lot of people did not agree.
Right.
With my decision, but hey, I'm glad I did. That was the best decision. Now people are right there. Right. I took my grandmother out of the assisted living home and I brought her to her house. Good. So she could die peacefully in her home, and it worked. It was so beautiful because my sister and I, because they were just like, oh, Davonne, it's too much if you bring her home, because how you gonna deal? How you going to? I said, y'all don't understand. This is my grandma. I promised her that I was gonna take care of her until her last day.
Right.
Like, and that way I knew, like, I could. It was too much on me and I had a little one. I just bought a house. Like, it was just too much on me to be 2 hours away from her and not. I just needed to be there to see her, to make sure she's getting, of course, in the assisted living home, they did a great job, but I needed to be there, like, to give me peace. And so I'm glad I did. Because it don't matter with assisted living home, it don't matter. Nobody's gonna take care of your family like you're gonna take care of your family.
Absolutely.
That's like nobody's gonna take care of your child like you're gonna take care of your child.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I just wanted to be there to make sure that she was just comfortable, and I knew she would have been comfortable in her house.
Yeah.
And she was, we put her where her daughter was before she transitioned, and my grandmother and her oldest daughter were extremely close. So it was a beautiful story. Her sisters, she was very close to her sisters. So her sisters flew in, and her house was big enough for people to sit around and come visit her. So we had, and my family is very spiritual and religious. And so they were able to sing and have church, and the pastors came. And my grandmother was from the Baptist. So they're really big in the rituals and religion. So it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Even though I know my grandma showed like a lot of noise. So she kind of gave me the look. She couldn't see, because she was declining, but she kind of gave me the look like Davonne, it's time for them to go to. It was so, but I didn't know how she is. I was like, okay, guys, time to go. But it was good. She appreciated it. And I remember every night before, because me and my sister, we were on shifts, like we were on 24-hour shifts, so we had to give her medicine, we had to turn, like we had to do, we were nurses, like literally, like we were on a schedule, like, so me and Elena, literally, I'm waking up at 3, she waking up at 6, like, then I had Jameer, who was, less than 1, so he wasn't 1 yet. So it was a lot. It wasn't easy. It was a lot, but, when you got to do what you got to do, you have to do it. And she got peaceful in her sleep. One night I said, good night, Grandma, I love you. And Jameer leaned over and do what he normally do and give her a kiss on the forehead. And I woke up on my regular schedule, to give her medicine and everything. And I was like, Grandma, like it was like, wake up, like wake up.
Right.
She woke up.
Yeah.
And so I felt like she was at peace. Her kids were there, all her grandchildren, and her daughter was there, her sisters. I just felt like how my grandma left is how she wanted to leave.
Yeah.
And so the funeral plan, we literally did what she wanted. It was done. I documented it. I had to. You would have proud of me, girl. I was organized. I had a little Dropbox. Girl, you would have. You would have been so proud of me. Girl, I had a little Dropbox.
Come on, Dropbox.
Girl, all I had to do was just share the Dropbox to my sister. I said, but girl, I wrote the obituary already and everything. Girl, yes, we were on it. Called my cousin, my mom, my grandma, one of my cousins would be the eulogy. We figured out who was going to be the speaking. Girl, honey, we had a party. Well, no, we didn't have a party. We had church. Girl,
no,
we had church.
I love it.
her pastors came from Virginia, so it was beautiful. I'm at peace. Good. Because we did what she wanted.
Yeah. There was no confusion.
Yeah, I needed that clearly. Yeah.
No, I know. And that's I think that's why I got emotional, because I'm like, I think that people ask you so much about like your business and how this success, but people don't give you the space and energy to talk about that. And I felt that. And that's why I was over here emotional, honestly, because I felt that when you were talking.
I appreciate that.
I was like, nobody asked Davonne about like that's the grieving part of it and how you even got there. And I felt it when you were talking, just the way that you were sharing stories, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, me and Davonne are the same person, because if people don't ask you and they see all this success and they see all the beautiful things that are happening in your life, but you don't understand like the backstories, like all the things that you were saying with your dad, so many similarities, just like how they were, like you said, having a party and being in the room, like that is a different feeling that unless you've been there, you don't understand. And so I didn't want to stop you and I didn't want to interrupt, because I knew how much that meant, because people ask you all the time and interview you all the time about all the successes that you have. And I know they don't ask you about Davonne and the person who she is. And so,
I appreciate that. That's why I love you, girl. That's why I love you.
I love you too, boo. We gonna be on here crying. gather, Lord, gather.
Maybe I needed it. Look. Maybe I needed a good cry.
Girl, listen.
That's what my grandma used to tell me. My grandma would be like, Davonne, it's okay to cry. Sometimes you just need a good cry.
You just need a good cry, child. It is my favorite thing to do. When I'm sitting in my room and I feel some type of way, I'm like, let me just cry real quick. And then I'm good. It's like I don't
have time to cry. Look, I don't have time to cry.
Let me tell you.
I need one to cry. Girl, the tears don't even come out. Like,
you be trying to push them. They don't come.
I be like, please, tears, come out.
Oh my God. But you said so many so many things. Girl, you see my notepad over here. So, I mean, it started when you were young, and then just all of these traumatic things. There were like I said, my notes are all over the place of how many things I want to ask. We're going to try and like pull one thing out here. Because I think the biggest thing that I heard, like, you know, you said with your aunt and how it was kind of unexpected and it brought you to a different place of appreciating people while they're still here. As we say, as the cool kids say nowadays, giving people flowers while they're still there. Right. And then that kind of changed with your godmother, you know, it was unexpected, but because you had a deep connection, like you kind of learned almost from your aunt to really appreciate people when they were there. But then that pressure came of being the one in charge. And woo, me and you have had that conversation because that's a whole nother episode.
I didn't even touch on that. That's another episode.
That's a whole nother episode, child. I might have to bring you back for that one because that stress that's a different level of stress. But I think
it's the unappreciated. I read this article and it said being the executive is the most thankless job.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't ever want to be, look, I'm putting this out there to record. I don't ever want to be an executive of anybody's face. Like, ever. Like, it's so much. Like, take it. I don't even want it. And people be like, oh, Davonne, you do a good job with planning funerals.
It's a lot.
You do a good job with handling business. No, I don't want to do it.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Trust me, I'm the administrator. My dad's estate now, and I can't wait till it closes. So anyway, trust me, sis, I feel you. But again, like even with your dad, all of those amazing stories, and like you said, do what works for you. Like if you want to be in the room, great. If you don't, great. But do whatever works for you. And so the next thing I wanted to ask you, these experiences that you've had, like with your grandma, and like you said, just being there for her, and you know, just getting her the roses, and you know, I think the biggest thing that I heard from you when it came to your grandma is you kind of had, I don't want to say a feeling of guilt, but like, gosh, like these things I'm doing now are great, but I should have been doing them while she was here. Do you think that would have happened? And I'm saying this because I think about this from my own perspective and other people who have lost someone or went through a traumatic, you know, state. Do you think that that comment or that thought comes specifically from a place of grief? Or do you think that, you know, you should just feel that way anyway, right? Because I feel like there's a different type of pressure that is on you when you do lose someone to be like, dang, I wish I would have done this so my mom and dad would have seen, or so my grandma and dad would have seen, right? So do you think that the loss causes a different type of pressure that causes you to be successful?
It does. Like, you know, my parents, you know, my dad didn't get a chance to walk me down the aisle. So, you know, so when I get married, you know, it's so I look at things differently. It's like, dang, you know, my grandma won't be, you know what I mean? It's like I bought a hotel and people, I'm excited. It doesn't come across that I'm excited, but you hit it spot on. I'm not that excited because I felt like this is something that my grandmother should be here to see. Mm-hmm. Like I would have rather brought my grandmother to the hotel, you know, to our investors.
Yeah.
Like so that way she could see it. So it would be different. But I guess it is a sense of guilt, you know, from grief, because it's like she's not here. You know, same thing with my dad. You know, all of these things that I'm doing now, I had the education and the access to do it, you know, but I didn't have that fire under me, right? I didn't have that, and now I will say Jameer helped. He put out, Jameer definitely lit a fire in me, and it started creating generational wealth and just giving him a better life than I ever could have dreamed. And so, Jameer definitely did help. But, yeah, to answer your question.
No, I think that's true though. And I want to dive into that because we didn't talk about it, you know, in your bio, but you are a mommy. You have a beautiful, juicy baby who I love so much. And, you know, how is that? You know, I'm glad that your grandma got to meet him, but you know, the things that you just talked about, I talk to my friends about that all the time. Like when I get married, my mom's not gonna be there to help me pick out a dress. My dad's not gonna walk me down the aisle. Like he walked all of my other sisters down the aisle. But I'm not gonna be able to experience that. And so those things I stick with, but I don't have children yet. And so I think about also those moments when I have children, my mother won't be there. They'll have their grandparents, hopefully, Lord willing, on, you know, my husband's side. But, you know, I think about those things. So how does that affect, the way that you're thinking about things. I know you just said, like, obviously you think about Jameer and giving him just a wildly, different life than maybe you had. But how does that affect your thought process when it comes to your son wanting to be successful for him and not, yes, wanting to be successful for your past loved ones, but do you think it makes you want to do it more because of that? Or do you think it was going to be like that anyway?
I think if Jameer wouldn't have came along, a lot of it, if Jameer didn't come along, I don't think I would be, I was comfortable. Like, I did okay stuff. I mean, people may be like, hey, you're just amazing to me. I was like, that's okay. I can do better. Because I knew in my heart that I could do better. So I guess that's where it's just like, because I know where I want to be, right? So I have these, out of the box dreams that I want to do, right? Steve Harvey, I was with him, he got 1,000,001 jobs. And whatever, I don't even know which job, whatever he was doing. I don't know if it was on a TV show, radio, I can't remember. But anyway, he was saying, you should write down 300 things that you want to do. If you can't get to 300, then you're not big enough. So I literally sat down and did it. It was actually kind of hard. I thought it was easy, kind of hard. And I sat down, but it allowed me to expand my mindset and change it. And I wrote these goals down, but I wasn't as focused. Right? I'm doing this, doing that, really not focused. And after my grandmother passed away, once I was just all over the place. I still was all over the place. And I just kept making excuses. That was my issue. I always made excuses. And finally, it was like, I don't even know what came over me. I have no idea. I couldn't even tell you. Literally, it was like epiphany. It was like a wind. I don't know. It was my dad or grandma. I have no idea what it was. But I was like, look, I'm buying a hotel and I'm doing it for my grandma's birthday. I don't know who with me. I don't know who against me. I don't care, but I'm buying this hotel for my grandma's birthday. So I don't know what y'all doing, but I know what I'm doing. And that was it, and it happened. So when it happened, it was like, oh dang, did I really just buy a hotel? Like, did that really, like, that really just happened? Like, it was, so that was more of a shocker. I was like, dang, for real? But because I was more focused, and I just felt like, well, since I didn't acquire it while she's alive, well, at least let me acquire it for her birthday. Let me at least do that. And as I'm going back to the scholarship, I was just like, what can I do to honor my grandmother? My grandma was really quiet. She didn't like a lot of attention on her. Like, she liked to she'll literally sit in the back of the room. She didn't want anybody to bother her. Now it's weird because you need to come by and speak. Like, don't go be in the room and don't speak to her because you're going to get upset. But she just didn't like a lot of attention on her. So, like, me doing a scholarship would have been too much for her. That's too much. Like, it just would have been too much for her. So, but I want to do something. I want to share my grandmother's story because her story is my story. Like, so many people want to know about me, and they need to know about my grandmother. And I called my mom, and I was talking to her, not too long ago, and I said, Mommy, I want to do something to honor you. So you need to figure out what you want me to do, because my mother's story is my story, right? I would not be who I am if it wasn't for my mother and the sacrifices and the stuff that she had to go through. I wouldn't be here without her. So in order for people to really understand me, and if they want to contribute to do it, they need to know my mother's story, just like they need to know my grandmother's story. And I'm just a big believer in paying homage. You don't know, if you don't know your history, you don't know where you're going. And so as I dissect things, and I've been doing a lot of processing these past 2 years. And ever since my son was born, a lot of processing, and more processing than this year than ever. And I had to think about, I couldn't just go back to how I was growing up. I had to go back to how my grandmother was growing up. Because how she grew up is how she raised my mom, basically. So then how my mom grew up, basically, it came back. So I had to go back a step. Then I had to even go back to my grandmother's mother. I had to go back to find out who I am and how that person made their mind, right? How these line of women, how did they, and then I had to go back to my dad, on my dad's side. Who is my dad? Who is my dad's mother? Who is my dad's father? Like, who are these people? So that way, all of these people, they came together and they created me. So that way I know now how I can raise Jameer. So that way, whatever generational curses or whatever cycle, whatever, because I want Jameer to be the best person that he can be. But in order for me to raise him to be that way, is to find out who I was. And so all of this, no, I'm so weird. I'm just being honest. I had to do a lot of processing. I mean, when I say I've been focusing on Davonne, I've been focusing on Davonne and my son. On dates, I've really just been focusing because I felt like I could have done more in life, to be quite honest. I was set up to do more in life, to do, better in school, to do better at work. I'm gonna say, I really was. I didn't give my full potential that I could have done. And I looked back at that and I said, you know what, Davonne, it's time to make a change. Because I want Jameer to be better than me. And so people don't go by what you say, they go by what you do, which is what my grandma told me. So I can't tell Jameer to make an A or to be the best that you can be. And if I'm over here half-assed. So I have to show up and I have to be successful. So that way, not to put the pressure on him, he can do whatever he wants to be. I'm be behind it 100%. But he has to see it. Right? He has to see it. And not even now, I realize not even my son is watching me. I didn't realize there's other people watching me. So now I have to set an example, for them. So that way they can hear my story, so they can inspire. And I want people to be better than me. So I want somebody to beat my record and buy a hotel at whatever age. I want somebody to. I encourage that. But I had to process that, and I had to go through this journey to get to this point.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love it. If y'all are not, listen, y'all need to be taking notes because she was dropping some gems up in there, okay? Because I was definitely taking some notes. Because honestly, like you always hear the phrase, our ancestors walk so we can run. But it's the truth. Like you said, you had to go back to not only your grandma, but your grandma's mom, her mom, and, to understand where Davonne Reaves came from your dad, his, and understand where you came from. And I love that you said, like, I want him to be successful, but I have to show up and be successful because how is he going to know that? Watching, I don't know, the rappers, what's their name? Lil somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like, where is he going to learn it from? I mean, he can learn that from them, but he can learn it in his home as well. So I can't expect my child to be that if I'm not even learning who I am to do that. So I'm absolutely proud of you. And I love that, boo. So you touched on the hotel. So I didn't know that you bought the hotel. Like that was your goal, was to buy it before your grandma's birthday, which I absolutely love it, love it, love it. So I don't want you to talk all about the deal. They can get into your hotel course if they want to do that. And I'll let her plug that at the end. But if you can just kind of bring me through the process, like the feeling, like I want to know what the feeling was, going, and again, I know a little bit about the process from school, but when it was like, Davonne, like now you're the owner of this hotel. Like what feeling did you have in that moment to know that this was something that you accomplished and it was something you accomplished by your grandmother's birthday?
Not as excited as probably other people probably would have been. I think like my business partner, Jessica, like she was telling everybody, like I even told them, I guess if she's telling people, I guess I'll tell people too. Like I remember I told my best friend, and she was like, oh, okay. She was like, you help one of your clients buy a hotel? I said, no, I don't want. She said, wait, so we talk every day. She was like, how you like let that like fly? Like who does it? Like it was just like random. I think I was talking to my other best friend. I was like, oh yeah, we just close. She's like, wait, what? It just happened. It was just like, oh, I mean, people, I'm telling people, and they're like, wait, what? They trying to process it. Like, it was a lot for a lot of people. I guess I couldn't really enjoy it because so many people were trying to process it and I had to explain it. And it was just like, can y'all just be happy for me? But it was just, I mean, I guess when I'm around hotel owners and, you're around hotel owners, you're
right.
being in the industry.
Right.
It's nothing new. It's just like, oh, okay, you bought a hotel, great. Like buying a house. It's like, oh, great. When you're in a hospitality space. But I guess I really realized it when I got the overwhelming response and people sharing how I inspired them. And, people were really touching me. My folks working in the hotel. Those people really, really, really touched my heart. They're like, oh my gosh, you're one of us, and now you're a hotel owner. Like, I didn't realize the impact. I was like, oh, I guess that is a big deal.
Right.
So we are working on more deals, and I can't wait to share it with you. I can't share it now because we haven't closed yet. Of course. But when we close, I'm gonna tell you now. One hotel bid we're working on. When I filled out the application fee, I started crying.
Oh.
Now that it hit me, I guess because it was at the brand. I was like, oh my God, it's really, man. And I was like crying, and Jameer was like, okay, like, you're crying? I was supposed to cry. You're like, what? Like, but the emotions I'm trying to enjoy. I'm really trying to focus on the present, but I have so many things going on this year that I can't wait to share with you. But so I'm trying to, juggle it and, balance and be a mom. And, I will say, having that time to grieve and creating the scholarship is definitely giving me purpose. I'm probably more excited about the scholarship than the hotel.
Well, let's talk about the scholarship then, girl.
Yeah, it's in my grandma's name. I'm happy. I added her maiden name, which is really big in my family. So my family is very powerful, the Swan family. So shout out to everybody, Swan family, Group family. We're really big on that. So
I love it.
Like the elders, my grandma was the elder. So when she died, it was like a big thing in the family. Like when one of the sisters, or because my great grandmother had 19 kids, 13 children lived to adulthood. So when those siblings died, like, one of them died, just like a huge thing.
Right.
So it was a huge blow. But anyway, so the scholarship is beautiful. It's just something to do in honor for her. And I want it to grow. And other than that, I want to help, African American female hospitality students. So right now, we're only targeting the Atlanta schools with major minor in hospitality. I want to expand it, so that way we can, increase it or grow it so that we can go nationally and, we can target all schools around the country. So this is my baby. This is what I'm really excited about. I have some other things that I'm going to be doing where I can pay homage to the people who've inspired me. So that's really been like my motivation.
Yeah.
The hotels is like, okay, great. Another motivation is mine is to help other people become hotel owners.
Yeah.
So I'm creating this initiative, creating 221 hotel owners and investors in 2021. So that's really been my baby. To really help them. I'm putting on educational courses. I'm doing speaking engagements. I didn't tell you. I got a podcast. It's not really helping hotel owners. It's more for the but anyway. But I'm putting out a lot of good stuff this year that it's just evolved. It's just amazing. I'm just so blessed and so fortunate and so thankful. Sad at the same time. It's bittersweet because my grandma and dad, they're not here. Because my dad would be loving this right now. He's like, what? Yeah, when I tell you my dad was the burger, girl, everybody would know in our old hotel. Not me going viral. My dad was like, somebody be like, oh, how you doing? Did you know my daughter just bought a hotel? Like, Dave, we just asked, no, you missed out. Let me try to argue. That's what my dad was. He was a bragger. That was his, So this
same.
Girl.
Same.
Yeah, every day.
No, that was my dad for sure. So I know you touched on the scholarship a little bit, but why is it important to help hospitality students when it comes to your grandma? I know obviously you started the scholarship to pay homage to your grandma, but why is it important for it to be specifically for Black hospitality students and not be, just for something else, for any open scholarship?
Well, for one, my grandmother, fortunately, because she saved, she's a big saver. She was fortunate enough to help send my sister out of college. I did have scholarships, but she also helped, so I didn't have to graduate with a lot of debt. If I took out any debt, that was just me being greedy. But I didn't really have to take out any loans, so I'm very thankful. And so I was thinking, I'm like, what can I do to pay homage to my grandma? I said, oh my gosh, I can create a scholarship. I'm Black. I'm going to try to encourage more women of color, particularly African Americans, to get to go through hospitality. And this particular scholarship is for folks who want to, women who, want to travel abroad, or, I want them to give us an opportunity to think bigger. Right? I'm even adding another component where I want to personally mentor the inaugural winner. So I'm going to take them, whatever mentorship, whatever guidance they need, it's going to be a part of the process, right? And so it's just something that I want to do for African American women. Basically, I'm creating this scholarship as if it was for me. Oh, like if I was in school, what would I wanted to see, right? I wanted to see some money because I need some money for school. I would love to have a mentor in my space. I would love to, think outside of the box as far as being in the industry, like, what other jobs are out there. Because while I focus on African Americans, because a lot of the programs and a lot of the studies, they don't talk about anything outside of operations, right? And there's nothing wrong with operations and nothing wrong with, becoming a general manager or sales and marketing. It's nothing like that at all. I'm not knocking it because we need it in order for our hotels around. So I'm not knocking it. All I'm saying is think outside of the box. Just don't limit yourself to becoming a general manager or director of sales and marketing. Don't limit yourself to hotels. You can be a broker. You can be an asset manager. There's so many different things that you can be. And I just want to just open your mind to it. You could say, I don't want to do it. I want to be a general manager. Because, hey, we need more Black women general managers. Not that many of them, right? So I just want to be here, support, because I would not be where I am without women, African American women such as Kathleen Bertrand, Valerie Ferguson, and Erica Paul. I say those three women all the time because they took the time when I was in school to mentor me. And I mean, to me, that was just, in my eyes, they're celebrities. Like people, they get excited about, and I love Beyonce, I'm part of the Beehive, but, they would be getting excited about celebrities. I'm like, oh my God, Valerie Ferguson, oh my God. I would like super get excited. Erica Paul, baby, oh my God. Like literally, I still get excited to this day. Yeah. When they respond to my email. When they first responded to my email, I was like, oh my gosh, they responded to my email. And so I remember that feeling. And so I want to share that and give back.
Right.
So that way that person can give back. So that way, so it could be just a trickle down effect. And so I believe if one of us wins, we all win. So it's not fair. And to me, I still don't think I'm that successful in my eyes.
Jameer said you're not successful either. Thanks.
Yeah, Jameer, that's what I'm saying. So I have Jameer as a reminder to be like, Mom, you're really not that successful. You don't know. So, so I in my eyes, I don't think I'm that successful. But everybody else does, I guess. So I'm glad somebody thinks I'm successful. I guess I get that from my grandma. Because if my grandma was here, she would tell me the same thing. You're not successful. I don't know who does that. So I guess it's a way for me to push myself harder so I won't be complacent. But anyway, that's why I created the scholarship for African American women. I feel like that we are underlooked. I feel like that we don't get the respect and the appreciation that we deserve as African American women. It shouldn't be a tragic accident for, hey, Black women, like we want to support you. No, as a community, we do a lot. We save a lot of the things. We're the one that gets things done. Like we're the ones who are behind the scenes, and we're just not appreciated and loved. And I feel like we should support each other. Like, and I want to support, people before while they're still trying to figure it out. Because I've been there before, and I remember when, like I said, people like Erica Krause and I remember Valerie Ferguson, she took the time to meet with me and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And she knew that. But I told her I wanted to own a hotel. It didn't make sense for how I explained to her how I was going to do it. She was like, what? But now I will say Valerie Ferguson, she's still here today, thank God. She did see me buy a hotel. So she's super excited. So she's like, oh my gosh. And Valerie Ferguson, for those who don't know, she was the first African-American female general manager of the Hyatt. Mm-hmm. And so she was the general manager of the Hyatt Regency Atlanta. So, like, she's one of my heroes. And so the fact that, I told her that and she remembered the conversation, she said, "Davonne, you told me you were going to buy a hotel." I don't know if she believed it or not, but she was like, "Yeah, you going to buy a hotel." And so that's why I'm creating this scholarship. That's why I'm offering, my mentorship services, or support or guidance or whatever, because I constantly hear, can you be my mentor? And, people, they just need that support and encouragement. And we have to be here for each other. I know some people, they don't do that. They feel like when they get to a certain position, they felt like they made it all there by themselves. Well, I'm glad you feel that way. I don't. I felt like I did not make it here by myself. I had help. I will admit that. People have been placed in my life to be my advocate, to mentor me, to tell me when I was wrong, to introduce me to the right people. So only thing I can do is give back. That's how I continue to get my blessings. I'm continuing to get my blessings. I'm so blessed. I thank God every day that I'm so blessed. And I don't try to help others so that way I can get something in return. So that's not how I was raised. My grandma didn't raise me that way. I just do stuff out of the kindness of my heart. So creating this scholarship is out of kindness in my heart. Because I want to give back, because the three women I just described, they saw something in me when I didn't see anything in myself. And they took the time to mentor me and to coach me and to be there and to be a support for me as well.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love it, boo. Well, I just will have to say, I know Jameer didn't say you're successful, but I think you're successful, and I'm just very proud of you.
I feel like you're more successful than me. Like you're doing it. I just want to be like you.
No, man.
I want to know for real.
No,
you
ma'am.
are. No, for real. Okay, so you having a Davonne moment.
I am just over here like Brandy, sitting up in my room, recording this podcast.
Doing the thing. I'm proud of you. Okay?
I appreciate it, boo. But honestly, no, seriously, like just hearing your story and, just having to push through the different, traumatic moments of your life to, having a son and saying, I'm going to be successful for him, and pushing through those moments, with your grandma and your dad and, and now here you are, and then creating, still giving back to the same people who, helped you, like your grandma helping you and your sister get to college. And now you're able to help other Black women do the same thing and support them the same way those three dynamic women helped you. So that's why I just honestly, like, and I keep saying it, but I mean it. Like if you're listening to this and you haven't caught anything, at the end of the day, like, yes, grief is ridiculous and garbage, but it can be a beautiful thing because it can put a fire in you. It can put motivation in you. I tell people that all the time. Like, even with this podcast, it motivated me to turn my pain into a purpose, right? And so there is another side once you push through it. I was telling somebody the other day, I said, here's the thing about grief. It is a passenger in your car that's going to drive with you all the time. But here's the thing about grief. It'll sit in the passenger seat, but unless you let that sucker drive, then it's fine. Like, it's always going to be there riding with you. But if you don't let it get in the driver's seat with you, then it doesn't matter. It can touch the radio. It can do whatever it wants to do, right? It can affect those things.
Can you write a book? You need to write a book. No, for real, because you're really good at work. You're really good at storytelling and processing.
Davonne, this is about you. Okay, Davonne, this is about you. Cause you about the fourth person who done told me to write a book. I'm like, no.
See, this is about I'm reminding you.
Davonne, it's about you. So what we gonna do, Davonne, is we gonna tell the people.
People been asking about me for like the past month since they found out about a hotel. Girl, please. Whatever. You need to write.
Oh Lord, y'all ignore that. Don't be talking about, excuse me, Loryn, when are you gonna write that book? Y'all.
No, actually, when you gonna write that book?
Y'all, do not be in my inbox. And if y'all listen to this, don't you be emailing me in inbox, because y'all be inboxing every time y'all hear someone on the show. Don't be inboxing me, ask me when I'm writing this book. Like, right when that book dropping, no.
Right. Like, why are you playing?
I'm not playing with you, Davonne. As I was saying, Davonne, because what I'm not going to do is play with you today. How can the people get in contact with you if they want to learn about the hotel, the scholarship, which they need to donate to, or if they just want to hit your girl up? Give them all that you got going on so they can get in contact with your girl.
I'm on Instagram at Davonne Reaves. And then I'm on, you can find me on LinkedIn too. LinkedIn works. And, yeah, dude, it works. And I'm on, I have a whole website too. It's called Davonne Group. Yep. So TheVonnegroup.com. Yeah. So that's probably the best way to reach out to me. Or just to follow and see what I have going on. I do put out a lot of free content. And then for folks who are like, I want to become a hotel owner, just go to my website. I have this free download. It is free. It's real free. And it gives you the steps on how to acquire a hotel. Like legit resources. I have a free resource. Yeah, I know, right? I said, I'm going to take, because I kept getting the question. I said, let me just go ahead and put this together, put a roadmap together. So yeah, it talks about, creating your ownership thesis. It talks about finding your hotel. Talk about assembling your team. I basically give you the secret sauce.
She does. It's really good. I'm going to put all this in the show notes. I'm also going to put a link on how to donate. Davonne, don't be telling everybody my secrets. I already told Davonne I'm going to be owning a hotel with her in about 5 years, but we ain't going to talk about that.
No, we're going to make it less than 5 years.
All right, now.
When people tell me, I'm like, what are you waiting for? Like,
they'll be like, girl, next year. Let me find out in 2021 I'm going to own a hotel. But, and I'm also going to put a link in the show notes for you guys to donate to the scholarship. As you all know, if you've been rocking with me for a while, that I am a hospitality girl. I got my bachelor's and master's degree in hospitality. And
that's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to be like you, because you are so smart. Like, y'all people don't realize, like, Loryn is so freaking smart.
I'm telling him to edit all this out. Don't play with me.
You are. Like, you smart as hell. This gonna be a Grieving show, and I'm saying I'm cursing like a sailor.
That's okay. I curse all the time. It's fine. I curse all the time. But no, honestly, guys, y'all need to donate.
I feel like we all drink and curse.
I know. I mean, is it real? But see, that's the thing. Like, it's real, raw, transparent. So I appreciate your transparency, and I appreciate your honesty on here. I know.
I'm too transparent.
I know, boo. No, I love it. I love it. So I want to thank you again. If you're listening, make sure you donate. I'm definitely going to be donating to my girl in the scholarship and supporting. So it's going to be in the show notes, you guys, and get in contact with her.
Donate. I'm going to need your listeners to donate on your behalf.
Guys.
Okay, y'all. Guys. How about this? If y'all truly supported alone, don't let her donate. Y'all going to donate on her behalf.
I'm sick of y'all. All right. Thank you, Davonne, for being here. I love you. I will see you guys.
No, this was good. I needed this. I needed a good cry.
No, it was, listen, a good cry. Good therapy. Every time. A good cry take you out every time. And we're going to get into the wrap up here. But Davonne, thanks again. Y'all go get her free download. Y'all go donate on my behalf. Since she's trying to act like I can't donate. Y'all go donate. And then actually she will be on the live next week with her mom and possibly her sister. But I'll put that on my Instagram. So y'all make sure y'all are following me on Instagram at TTSS Pod so you all can see where to see Davonne live with her mama, maybe the baby. We might just have a whole family affair up in here. So we gonna get to this wrap up, but thank you again, Davonne. I appreciate you, boo. OMG. I just love Davonne. Just her story and the grief that she has been through and everything, to creating this beautiful scholarship fund for her grandma and to just be honoring her dad. And I'm just proud of her. So as you can see, guys, there is another side to the grief. I usually come with points of saying, like, this is what the points are. I don't know if I necessarily have any points because I think what she said, she just done so many great things. I just wanted you guys to see that in the midst of grieving, you can still use that as a fuel. I wanted to show that, yes, the grief has those nasty parts of it, those sad moments of it, those moments that it looks like it's never going to end, or those moments where you're in the bottom and you feel like you're never going to make your way to the top. But you definitely are, you guys. Like she said, she although, yes, she had her son and that had some motivation, it was the pressure or the catalyst that I'll say from the loss of her dad and of her, recently grandmother that allowed her to be successful and want to continue to be successful for her son. Because I think, and again, I feel like there's a whole nother episode to talk about that, is really striving to make your deceased loved ones proud. And you may be like, well, Loryn, I haven't lost anyone like that, or I don't feel like that's my story. And it doesn't have to be, again, like a loss of a loved one, like maybe a divorce really like fueled you to start that business that you've been wanting to start it, but you didn't do it because of the relationship that you were in, or maybe you losing that job again. You know, you were always comfortable with your salary, but now, especially a lot with the pandemic, a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of diamonds, shall I say, came out of this pandemic because a lot of people had to refocus and reshift and reimagine what their life looked like, because maybe the job that they had for so long just, you know, had to let them go because of the pandemic. And so now they have a thriving business, or they have a business idea or a side hustle or whatever, because they had to make that money. And so I just really wanted you guys to hear her story and hear her journey with grief, and to show that, like, listen, like, yes, you can have these things happen to you in life, and you can have these losses happen to you in life, but you can be successful. Davonne has a hotel. She's the owner of a hotel. She has a scholarship that's honoring her grandmother. And those are just a couple of the amazing things that she's doing. She shared with me some other things that she's going to be doing here soon, but she's done amazing things in her life, right? But she couldn't really enjoy the moment because it's like, dang, like I should have done this while they were here so they can see it. But if they weren't, like, if they were here, what would it have happened, right? Because she said she had the same access, she had the same resources, she had the same education, but it didn't happen. And so sometimes I feel like God gives us a loss because that loss is what's going to make us find the thing, the purpose in our life that we need. And so as you're listening to it and as you're going through it, and if you're listening to it, to say, you know what, like, I lost, insert whatever the loss is. And now I feel like I have found what my purpose needs to be. And I'm going to really go wholeheartedly towards that. And I know that these people or this thing or whatever is the reason behind it, whether it's, again, like the loss of a loved one. And you're like, you know what? I know if they were here, like she said, her dad brags, my dad would have been the same way. Child, he would have been all over Facebook. He would have made a video, like anything, you know, any accolades that I put, he would have made a video, you know, here's my daughter. And, you know, she got a pocket, like, that was the type of energy that he gave. And my mom, you know, although just sweet and quiet, you know, that was her spirit. She would have been the same. She would have came and posted on my wall and said, you know what? I'm so proud of my daughter. Like, that was the energy. And so those are the things that fuel me when I'm creating this podcast. And like she said, those are the things that fuel her when she's doing these hotel deals and she's creating these scholarships, is not only her grandma and her dad, but her son, her mom, her sister, all of these different people, right? So whatever that thing is that you lost, just know that even though it's a loss, you can find something. You can find a passion in that. You can find a purpose in that. You can find a vision in that. So don't just allow this loss to think it's just a loss and that's it. No, let it to be a found. And I know I keep saying like lost and found, but it's the truth. Like, yes, you lost something, but you found something. And sometimes it can be so much bigger. A lot of times it's much bigger than you. A lot of times it's much bigger than anything else that you can ever dream of or imagine, because that's what God does, is he gives you these things that you can that you can't even dream of, or are bigger than you can ever imagine. And so I say all that to say that as you're going through whatever your journey of loss is, whatever your journey of grief is, to know that it's going to be that. It's going to be a journey. It's going to be a struggle. You're going to have those great days. You're going to have those awful days. You're going to have those days when you're trying to reach a pinnacle of success, whatever that looks like for you. And I want to make sure I say that success looks different to some people. You see Davonne is like, you're successful. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm just in my room recording the podcast, like, you know, but to her, she's like, you pushed through two traumatic things in your life and you continue to still move forward, right? And to me, I'm like, girl, what are you talking about? You pushed through two traumatic things in your life and you are over here doing it big, right? So whatever your level of success is to you, as you're going through that journey, the ups, the downs, the days you're tired, the days you're upset, the days you don't want to do it, the days that you make the most money, the days that you don't make money, the days that people tell you can't do it, the days that people tell you need to do it this way to be successful, the days when you're confused and you're like, God, I don't know what I'm doing. During those times, as I always say, guys, be kind to yourself and give yourself grace, because if you don't, who will? And that is what's going to make you successful. And that is in those moments of grief when you're looking and you're like, God, I can't believe I'm doing this. But when you get to that moment where you feel successful, it's going to be all worth it. And just know, like I told you, that grief is in the passenger seat with you. But as long as you're driving the car, it doesn't matter. It could be touching the window. It can be turning the radio on. It could be trying to change the GPS. But at the end of the day, you're the one driving and you're the one in control. And so I'm just excited to see what you guys do with this episode, like just to hear like the different levels of success that you can create, even if you have a moment of grief or even if you lose something, because on the other side of that is something absolutely beautiful. So that is it, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to another week's episode of This Too Shall Suck podcast, where we talk about the real of grief, the whole grief, and nothing but the grief. This episode was produced by Mike Sick, and our original music is produced by Jimmy Samaj. You can follow me on social media on Instagram at TTSSPod, and you can visit my website at thistooshallsuckpodcast.com. Also, feel free to send me an email. Let me know how you liked Davonne's episode. Let me know what you're going to be pushing through to make yourself successful and what business you're going to start from your grief and how you're going to turn your pain into purpose at hello@thistooshallsuckpodcast.com. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe, and share this podcast with someone you think it could help. As always, I love you guys, and I'm sending you love and light in your life because you deserve it. I'll see you on the next episode. Mwah.